Okay guys, so we're going to look at some of the internal organs of the cat. So we're going to look at all of the systems, and I'm going to point out as many names as we can. So we're going to start with the thorax region basically. So right here there's two tubes that you can see. So the one that I'm pointing to right now, there's these white lines going through these. This should sound familiar to you because this is basically what you will see on your trachea. The same thing in humans, which basically keeps the air passageway open. So the tube that we're looking at like here, that would be your trachea. The one you see underneath it, and I pulled it out to kind of visualize it for you guys, this tube actually sits posterior to your trachea. This is a muscular tube. You can see it is kind of collapsed right now, so it doesn't have the same opening as you see in trachea. This tube is your esophagus, and if I go ahead and remove this, you can kind of see how this gets tucked in beneath the trachea and is not going to be visible on the anterior view. Now moving up, we have your thymus gland right here, and then right below that you can see the heart and lungs. So here is the heart right here in its pericardium. So the kind of the double membrane that protects it, and on either side right here and right here on this side, I don't know how visually you can see them, these ones right here would be the lobes of your lungs. So this side would be your left lung, and these lobes right here would be belonging to your right lung. Now if I go ahead and cut through the pericardium, so I'm going to cut through that to kind of help you see that as well. So there are fluid in there, so we're just going to cut through this. And then that way we can visualize the heart a lot better. So here is the heart right here. So for the hearts, I do expect you guys to be able to identify the chambers. So right here, this would be the right side of the heart, and that side would be the left side. So here is going to be your right atrium up here. You have your right ventricle down here. Here is your left atrium, and on this side would be your left ventricle. So right atrium, right ventricle, left atrium, and left ventricle. Now going down, separating the thorax region from the abdominopelvic region, you have this dome-shaped muscle right here. So this is the same thing again as human, that's your diaphragm. And if I try to lift up the diaphragm, you guys can see this little extension that's coming from the diaphragm and is connecting to this really large organ, which is the liver. So this extension you see right here, extending from underneath the diaphragm to the liver, is the falciform ligament, that again securing the liver in its position. So here is our liver. So this really large organ that you see, that's your liver. And tucked in the folds of the liver, you can see this kind of like a squishy sac right here. This would be the gallbladder. Now if I shift up the liver and look on the side, moving to the left side, this organ you see right here, kind of this curvature, J shape right here, that's the stomach. So here's the stomach. And then hanging from the lower part of the stomach, what you see is this kind of layering or curtaining of fat. So you see this right here, the yellow is basically fat. This is called the greater omentum. The reason for this to be called the greater omentum is because it's hanging from the greater curvature of the stomach. So here's the stomach, and this is hanging from the lower part, so it's called the greater omentum. Now the stomach is connected to the first part of the small intestine, which is right here. This is going to be your duodenum. Again, like humans, this is going to be relatively short, and again directly connected to your stomach. There is a valve that is separated. I'm not depicting it here, but you have seen this in the models for the human digestive system, the valve called the pyloric sphincter. Moving farther to the left, you can see this kind of an extended organ right here. It kind of has that darker brownish color to it. This is the spleen, which is essential for both storage of blood as well as destruction of the old red blood cells. Now, if I continue and look inside the intestines, what you can see is the folds of the small and large intestine. So I'm going to kind of show you what these differences look like. So if you're looking at the large intestine, and I kind of want to show you the folds of the large intestine versus the small intestine. So here is the folds of the small intestine. So look at the diameter of the tubing. So basically from this finger to this finger, that's your small intestine. Again, the diameter or the size of the tubing is pretty small. The tubes are long, like your humans, but the size or the diameter of the tubing is small. Now compare this tube to this one. So do you see this tube? This is your large intestine. Look at the thickness of the tube. This is the thickness of the tube. Okay? So this versus this. Small intestine, large intestine. Now what do you need to know for the identification of the large and a small intestine? So I don't really need you guys to know immediately where the jejunum starts or ends and where the ileum starts and ends. What I do want you guys to know is the following. If I point out, if you find the stomach and it's pointing right after the stomach, that would be your duodenum. If you're looking at these folds and you see that they are more close to the duodenum, so folds like this, they're closer to the duodenum, right on the top, superior part, that would be your jejunum. And then what I'm going to show you, and now give me a second to find it, what I want to show you is the transition from the small intestine to large intestine. So see how the folds on this side are small, and then all of a sudden you get this really thick fold right here. So small intestine, large intestine. So this is the transition from the small to large intestine. This makes this part your ileum. This little sac you see right here, so what I'm holding on to right now, see the sac? That's the cecum. And then going up, that's the start of the colon or your large intestine. I do not expect you guys to be able to identify ascending colon, transverse colon, descending or sigmoid colon. All I want you guys to be able to say that based on the thickness, this thickness identifies the large intestine. I do want you to be able to say that based on this little pouch that is forming here, that is your cecum. And the reason this part is going to be identified as ileum is because ileum connects to the cecum. Now, moving back up a little bit, so we're going to try to find our pancreas. So again, here's my greater omentum. So we're looking underneath the stomach right now. So I don't know how visible it is to you guys, but we have an organ right here. So again, here's my greater omentum. What I'm holding on with my finger, that's your stomach. So I'm pushing back on the stomach, looking underneath my stomach. So this organ right here underneath the stomach, that would be hidden by your stomach, that would be your pancreas, which basically produces majority of your pancreatic juices. That helps with the digestion of your food. Now, let's continue and look at some of the other organs. So as part of the urinary system, we have our kidneys. So here is one kidney right here. So I'm going to kind of run my hand through this or use my probe. Here is one kidney. Again, that bean-shaped structure you see right here. And if I turn my cat around and show you the other side, here is the other kidney built into the, kind of secured into the lumbar region. So what I want to do is, this is surrounded by a fibrous capsule. So I'm going to again cut through that. Okay, and I'm going to pull one of the kidneys out for you. So here is cutting through the membrane. And here is the kidney coming out. Okay. So here is our cat's kidney. Okay, so I'm not pulling too hard because I want you guys to see that there is a connection here. So this connection, and I'm going to kind of try to pull it out for you guys so you guys can see a little bit better. Sorry, I don't have my best dissection tools today. So we gotta work with what we have. So coming off of my kidney, we have a relatively thin tube, which is this tube right here. So here's my kidney, this tube is coming off of my kidney. That would be my ureter. So here's my ureter. And if I track my ureter, which is basically collecting urine, I can work my way all the way to this little sac you see right here. So this is the sac kind of tucked into the abdominal pelvic region. That sac is referred to as your urinary bladder. So you have your kidney, the tube running through it. From the kidney to the urinary bladder is your ureter. And then again, your storage of the urine inside the little bladder here. So I think that's all I want to show you right now. So yep, that's it. So we'll continue with our next PowerPoint later on.